Hello and good evening everybody, and welcome back to more OCD. I've got my book, I've got my two therapy dogs with me, so let's go, shall we? If you remember, we just finished a bit on avoidance, so let's get on with it, shall we? Let's get this a bit closer. The counterproductive nature of compulsions / rituals / neutralizing or safety seeking behaviors and avoidance. In the table on pages 56 to 58, we can see how it makes sense to engage in all sorts of physical and mental actions or avoidance to feel safe, better, or less anxious, or to neutralize, i.e. cancelling out, as a result of responsibility and to try to get rid of the thoughts themselves. Now, if you remember, table 56 to 58 was when we went through all this lot, which we've done on a previous video. All washing, checking, counting, praying, asking for reassurance, avoiding have come back in the first place to try to make you feel safer and less anxious, but in fact do the exact opposite. Even if they provide temporary relief from anxiety, all these physical and mental behaviours make the meaning attached to those intrusive thoughts, images, urges and doubts feel more true. Therefore keep the need to do the behaviours going, making the meaning feel even more true, and so on. Key idea. These are some big problems with compulsions. Number 1. By responding to the belief that you are responsible, you implicitly accept the implication of being responsible in the first place. Okay. Number 2. Compulsions focus you on the responsibility belief and the intrusive thoughts themselves, making the thoughts more accessible and noticeable when you're thinking. Number 3. You become more anxious and preoccupied. Number 4. You do not get a chance to find out what would happen if you didn't do the compulsions. That is very true. I'm not sure I want to find out sometimes. Now, I'm going to show you a little thing here. You got this. Yes, right. Little thing. I'm going to let you read it. I'm going to read it and describe it, but I do suggest you, if you are just listening and not watching, I suggest you go back a few seconds and actually look at it. Intrusions. At the top we have thoughts, images, impulsive doubts, which can go down to responsibility interpretations, probability and awfulness. And this can go down to neutralizer, which brings us back up to responsibility interpretations, which can take us up to intrusions. Now if you have a look at this again, you can see, you can see that they're all kind of connected with each other. Think of the last time that you were engaged in some kind of physical or mental compulsion, and ask yourself the following questions. That time, what was the effect of reacting that way in your belief that something bad could happen, and that was your responsibility to do something? Well, if you go back to the time I had this urge to wash my hands, it's because my hands felt a bit sweaty, which is strange because summer's pretty much over now. It's not hot like it used to be. I mean, it didn't, how do you say this? I don't feel like there were grave consequences to me not washing my hands then. But my hands felt a little bit sweaty, and I thought I should do, because I don't want those germs on there. And it's not like germs that will kill me, it's more like germs that will just be there, annoying me, you know? Back to it. As you felt anxious, did you believe this more or less? Pretty much. And did your compulsions feel more or less important? They felt important. I couldn't really wait much longer. Has it ever permanently got rid of an obsessional worry? Well, of course not. It's germs. They're always there, no matter what I do. Have you ever thought that all this stuff you might do be making the problem worse? With other things, yes. Key idea. The solution becomes the problem. The more you buy into the idea that you are responsible, the compulsions become more important / time consuming / repetitive. That is very true. You know it's true. Let's take a look at some common compulsions and examine how all these things keep the problem going and make it worse. Rituals. Rituals can come in many guises. There is no limit to their variety and complexity. They may be related to the fear in a very obvious way, or may develop a very individual connection with the fear that would be hard for others to guess. Common rituals include touching objects in a certain way a specified number of times or in multiples of a particular number. Each example, touching a light switch 7 times or 7 times. Let me go in here. Sorry, I confused myself there for a minute. Example, touch a light switch 7 times or 7 times 7 times. So you have 7 times or you have 7 times, which would be 35, 42, 49. So got the maths. Avoiding certain colours or deliberately wearing certain colours, i.e. not wearing black due to believe that is associated with evil. Not done that, although I will admit I do like colour. Routine and ordering. Having to get dressed in a particular set order, starting again if you make a mistake. Never done that. But I can tell you now, when I'm getting dressed after a shower, it's always underwear first, always. Then the t-shirt, then the socks, then the trousers, then the jumper, then the jacket. Always in that order. You don't go against the order. Problems with rituals is that engaging in them buys into the idea that you're responsible for preventing something bad happening. I'm with the book so far. They only provide a temporary relief from anxiety. Well, obviously, that's all we can do sometimes is just seek a temporary relief from things. They become more elaborate and lengthy over time. Very true. If you don't do your rituals, you find out what would actually happen, whether your fears would come true. Check-in. Check-in is a very common manifestation of OCD. Some of the main things that people check include that the front door is locked, that the baby is breathing, that the appliances are switched off, that they haven't committed a terrible crime, checking newspapers or audience for reports of a crime, calling the police asked if anyone has been attacked or murdered. Never done that. I can imagine they would be very suspicious if I did ring up about that. Checking for signs of sexual arousal when around children. Never really had that problem. I'm very lucky in that regard, I'm thinking. Because this book has led me thinking that there are people who feel things like that. And despite having no interest in that, the intrusive thoughts intrude upon them at the wrong times. I'm feeling very grateful right now, I'll be honest with you people. Very grateful. Lastly, that no one in the family has had an accident. There's not a lot you can do. I mean, my parents don't go out with their phone half the time, so if they had an accident, I wouldn't know. Think about the things that you check. Have you had to check more or less as time has passed? The problem with checking is that, over time it is likely that you have had to check more and in a more elaborate way. By checking in the first place, you are treating your belief about responsibility as true, making it feel more true with each check. As you continue checking, in order for it to feel right or be enough, and for you to stop feeling anxious, you end up doing more and more. It becomes harder to stop, as each time you do your checking, you buy into the idea that the checking was necessary to stop something bad happening. If you don't check, you find out what would actually happen, whether your fears would come true. Now, this is interesting. It's like, when I go out, I always end up having to go back to check the door, because there's always this little voice saying, "Did you lock the front door, Jim?" "Yes, voice, I did." "Are you sure, Jim?" "I don't think you did." "Yes, voice, I did. Now shut up. I think you better check it." "You're right, voice, better check it." See, that is one I have to do, because if you don't see, someone could break in, they could steal your stuff, they'll break your memories. And just generally ruin your life. Mental checking / mental argument / doubting. Mental checking works in a similar way to physical checking. Repeated attempts to ensure that something has or hasn't happened. As we described in the Not Trusting Your Senses section on page 62, consciousness and deliberate efforts to mentally check in an effort to feel extra sure, remember exactly, do not yield certainty. In fact, this checking generates further doubt. Is that your final answer? On Who Wants a Million? wants to be a millionaire. When presenter Chris Tarrant says, "Are you sure is that your final answer?" Does that make the contestant feel less anxious? Well, obviously not. No, that's the whole point of the show. That's why he'd done it, because he wanted to be anxious. Then again, for the amount of money they were winning, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I'd take that level of anxiety for a short period of time like they did. If I thought it would get me, like £100,000 or something. I couldn't quite retire on £100,000, but I could do this full time. And travel at the same time. I can make 2 or 3 videos a day. Sorry, just thinking about that for a minute. Well, does that question make them feel less sure and more anxious? Well, obviously it does. That's the whole point of it. Often contestants get more anxious and phone a friend or display further doubt in their answer. See, the thing to remember is, with that show, I mean, granted it's not Chris Tarrant anymore. Last time I checked it was Clarkson, I think it was. The whole point of that bit, though, is to make the person win less money, or to make them use the lifeline so they get less further ahead. Because at the end of the day, a quiz show is no different than a casino, really. Their vested interest in is you winning less money. Although they are making money if you do win the big prize, obviously they make more if you didn't. And hence that is why Chris Tarrant used to say, "Are you sure about that? Do you want to use a lifeline just to make sure?" He knew what he was doing. And the producers and shareholders loved him for it. Often contestants will get more anxious and phone a friend or display further doubt in their answer, as we just said. OCD often makes people mentally check or argue with themselves, which has the effect of making them more uncertain. Okay. Do you reckon this itching on my videos will ever stop? I don't. Thinking about it, I can feel more itches now. I'm trying to resist it, but it's hard. Mental checking can sometimes involve trying to remember something that didn't happen. This is an example of an impossible criterion. Trying to remember something that didn't happen is unachievable. The effort to try to do this generates further doubt and anxiety while making it feel more important to be certain. See impossible criteria and the need for certainty on page 64. We've done it before, I don't need to go back and check it. So there are some big problems with neural checking. Number 1. Buys into and strengthens the idea that you are responsible. Number 2. Provides only temporary relief from anxiety. Number 3. It stops you from finding out what would happen if you did not normally check that your anxiety would decrease. I'll tell you something now, I don't think my anxiety would decrease. Number 4. Increases your sense of doubt. Yes, it definitely does. Yes, I'm aware that leads to more checking of things, but it's still preferable to dealing with the voice. Number 5. It is effortful, often requiring more effort over time. Number 6. It increases emphasis on internally referenced subjective criteria, remembering clearly, feeling sure, and getting it just right. If you don't check, you find out what would actually happen, whether your fears would come true. Avoidance. OCD often tells people to avoid all sorts of things. Public toilets, children's playgrounds, people with diseases, unlucky colours. No, I've not had that problem, I can honestly say. Public toilets, never had to do it. Children's playground, well, I don't really go into children's playground because, I'm 40 years old now. I mean, I wouldn't record children in a playground for obvious reasons because it's just plain rude. And it would freak someone out. I mean, there's no reason to give people the anxiety, is there? Number 3, people with diseases. I've not really dealt with people with diseases. I know we had a pandemic a few years ago, but I had no real friends then either, so it doesn't really make much difference. I wasn't exactly seeing people. But I was saying, I was one of the lucky few that actually got to go to work as normal. Actually, it was better. Because I got paid the same, but the hours were less. It was great. Unlucky colours. Don't have unlucky colours. I like bright colours, happy colours. But it's been it. Trying to avoid or suppress thoughts. Trying to avoid thoughts themselves is a particularly powerful part of OCD. We illustrate this with the white polar bears example. Okay. Try as hard as you can not to think about white polar bears. But it's a bit hard now because they've mentioned polar bears, so they're in my flipping head. Do not imagine their fluffy white faces. Definitely do not think about their little cubs sliding about on the ice. Don't think about them. It's hard now you've mentioned it. What do you notice? For most people, it's extremely difficult to not think about something. Can you do that, Bill? Can you not think about polar bears? Their big white faces, their massive things just walking through the snow. They're walking over to you now. They're going to trap you because you got too close to their cubs. Didn't mean to, but they were cute, so you wanted to hurdle them. Now they're coming over to kill you. Think about the polar bears, people. Think about them. Or don't. It's your choice. Your choice. But you should definitely not think about it. What do you notice? For most people, it's extremely difficult to not think about something. You have to have an idea of something in order to push it out of your mind, which means that you're already thinking of it. In fact, generally trying to suppress a thought has the paradoxical effect of making it more noticeable. So trying to avoid thoughts is not only difficult, but also usually futile and counterproductive. Additionally, it is common to try to avoid triggers for intrusive thoughts. The problem with avoidance is, number 1, it buys into and strengthens the idea that you are responsible. Number 2, you never have the chance to find out what really happens. Number 3, this makes the avoidance seem more important and difficult to change. Number 4, the list of things to avoid can get longer. That is very true. If you don't avoid, you find out what would actually happen, whether your fears would come true. Reassurance. If you believe that you are responsible for harm or capable of being a paedophile, Jesus, this book really does go with the dark stuff at times. Or that you can't be trusted to lock your house. Okay, that's more relatable, that one. Seems like a good idea to ask someone if you have done anything too risky. Whether you have... Jesus, what is it with this book and the sexual abuse? It's getting a bit much sometimes, you know? Whether you have sexually abused anyone while you were drunk. Okay, that's a genuine fear of getting drunk. I mean, we all read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, didn't we? I mean, I know it was meant to be like a science thing, but really, he was just an alcoholic. He got drunk and done the things he wanted to do when he wishes he could do when he was sober. You know I'm right when I say this. So don't judge me. Actually, judge me in the comments, people, okay? Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Tell me how wrong I am, and I can tell you how wrong you are. Okay? Actually, don't. Don't do that, people. Definitely don't. Comment, you know. Don't fill up my comment box with criticisms or anything, because, you know, it won't help or anything. And I won't be able to tell you how wrong you are as well. As children, we are constantly seeking and being given reassurance by those around us, teachers, parents, etc. It's helpful in building our confidence. Gradually, we make the transition from seeking reassurance, where someone else takes responsibility for our concerns and tells us that all will be well, to seeking support, where we have taken our own decisions and have responsibility for them. But the other person provides emotional support, showing confidence in us and acceptance that even if things go wrong, they'll stand by us. However, even as adults, when things are anxiety-provoking, it is very good for our point of view to have someone else step in and share responsibility for really difficult and threatening situations. Whether that is our boss or a friend, so that most people not only seek support, but also from time to time reassurance when something seems especially threatening. For the OCD sufferer, things which are easily manageable for others can seem particularly difficult and threatening, so they turn to the more confident for reassurance about whether their hands are clean, the door is locked, their thoughts are dangerous, and so on. The fact that others appear confident about these things makes it easier to talk, and also, easier to ask, and also easier for the other person to provide the reassurance. However, it is in the nature of OCD that the more reassurance you seek and get, the more you need. Bear in mind that reassurance seeking is a type of compulsive behaviour, simply a type of checking with others which has the added advantage of sharing responsibility with the other person. Checking as a way of dealing with obsessional fears can be compared to digging to get out of a hole. Reassurance is similar, except that it's a bit like asking a trusted person to get down into the hole and dig alongside you as a way of trying to escape the hole. said there are a range of problems linked to asking for reassurance. The main effects of seeking reassurance are that 1. It buys into and strengthens the idea that you are responsible. 2. It only provides temporary relief from anxiety. 3. It stops you from finding out what would happen if you did not ask for reassurance, that your anxiety would decrease. Number 4. It makes you more inclined to seek reassurance the next time. Number 5. It increases your sense of doubt. Another significant drawback of reassurance is that it embroils others in your OCD. It is very difficult for family or friends to withhold reassurance if you are anxious or upset. However, it is often upsetting for others to become involved in this way. This might lead to arguments, breakdown of relationships, and misery for all concerned. Fortunately, they are helping your OCD rather than you when they give you reassurance. We know from research that at least in the short term, the person seeking reassurance tends to feel better and not asking for it, and not giving it, has the immediate effect of increasing anxiety. Typically, both the reassurance seeker and the person responding by giving feel that they have no other choice. Ways of dealing with the urge to seek reassurance and for the other person. Responding to reassurance seeking will be discussed in Chapter 8. If you don't ask for reassurance, you'll find out what would actually happen, whether your fears would come true. Selective attention or looking for trouble. Selective attention on the lookout for trouble. Pigeons with bird aids. Yes, I did read that right. Look, I actually said it. Look. Pigeons with bird aids. Do you reckon that's like HRVAs or A's like Jared had? Thinking about it, he turned into one of them, didn't he? Blamed Subway for it. Anyway, think of the last time you left the house and walked along the street. How many pigeons or other birds did you notice? A few? None? You don't really see many birds around here. You see seagulls. Actually, in the mornings you will see a lot of pigeons and doves. Once you step out of the house, you mostly see seagulls during the day though. Imagine now that you just heard a radio broadcast that described a new and deadly form of disease. Bird AIDS. I'll be honest with you, that sounds like something Alan Partridge would say. Bird AIDS. You know? No, just me. This can be transmitted to humans by contact with birds. How many birds are you likely to notice now? I'll be honest with you, if I heard on radio, I'd be noticing every freaking bird that was there and wasn't there. Most likely a lot more, as the birds now represent a risk or a threat to you. Your attention will be drawn to the birds. This works in the same way for thoughts or triggers. If you hold the belief that your thoughts are a sign of danger, that something bad is going to happen, or that you are bad in some way, you will notice them more and they will probably occur more. How very true. Selective attention or looking for trouble. OCD is an anxiety-related problem. One of the main effects of anxiety is to make the sufferer more sensitive to any sign of danger or threat. A good way of thinking about this in terms of looking for trouble. If someone is anxious, then they scan everything they come across for signs of danger. Just like I do. This is actually helpful if you are in a dangerous situation, for example, walking in the jungle where there might be wild animals, because it prepares you to react really quickly once there is some sign that the danger might be about to strike. However, it is much less helpful when the danger is due to misinterpretation. For example, thinking things are more dangerous than they really are. We discussed this in the previous video, or the video before, I forget which one. Fortunately, OCD tunes you into risk, makes you more likely to spot risky situations and to notice those intrusive thoughts and things that are linked to them. This makes it seem as if the world really is a dangerous place. There are signs of possible danger everywhere, so anxiety increases, which further increases in sensitivity to danger and so on. When you feel anxious and threatened, things which might or might not be signs of danger are pretty much always interpreted as indicating that danger really is just around the corner. Selective attention works in the same way in the world around you. If you're tuned into dirt or germs, you'll notice marks or stains on any and everything that you touch. That is very true. Excuse me. Another thing of process that occurs in OCD is threat bias. If you see something ambiguous, you are likely to assume that it would be something bad rather than good. Use for example, this would be walking in long grass in a country that was populated by poisonous snakes. something I would not do by choice. If you saw a long thin slightly coiled form on the ground, it would be quite likely that you would freeze on the spot or jump away as you jumped to the conclusion that it was a poisonous snake. In fact, it could be another kind of snake, or belt or rope that someone has dropped on the floor. Personally, I'd not stick around to find out. So in OCD, if you think the dirt or germs will kill you, as well as being more tuned to noticing potential dirt and germs in the first place, you'll make the assumption that ambiguous situations are dangerous. So all coffee stain looks brown. If you're anxious about contamination, it can seem likely that it is blood. This links to general beliefs like it's better to be safe than sorry. Someone who strongly holds such a belief will not take even the smallest risks. The trouble is, when you start to look for it, almost everything around us could be risky. Summary. And until we're coming to the end of tonight's video, people. If you think you're responsible for preventing something bad happening, it makes sense to try to do something about it. That is very true. People with OCD engage in a range of safety-seeking behaviours, including checking, reassurance seeking and avoiding. All these make the problem worse, by buying into the belief that you are responsible and prevent you finding out what would happen if you did not take these answers. And that, people, is the end of tonight's video. The next one will be dealing with the fisher's flower. Hope you learned something tonight, because I did. So, it's good night from me. Good night from the book. Good night from Jennifer Slopez. And it's good night from Slowdown Milosevic. Bye everybody. Take care of yourselves, alright?